Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Black Tower Podcast, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Andrew,
And I am Daniel.
and we are super excited to have you guys back for another episode. We think this one's going to be, well, we think they're all pretty good. Might be biased, but
Yeah,
um,
only a little.
this one might, I don't want to say generate, but might find itself in a few more searches in terms of the coming television series. But in
hmm
light of that, there's some things you should be aware of. Daniel, tell them what they should be aware of.
So, y'all, uh, this is a character that spans the entire length of the books. There is definitely going to be some spoilerage if you are not start to finish. So please finish the series before you listen to this episode. If you are not done with the series, put this down. Most especially if you are not done with book 7, put this down right now. Put this down right now. If you have not finished Fires of Heaven, this is gonna be hurtful.
Oh yeah.
So come back once you've finished the book, and come back once you've finished all of them, and we'll talk, because this is a great character, and I'm really excited to talk about the topic. But it is definitely a must finish the series before you talk about the character kind of thing.
And for those of you lovely people that in the future, as in reference to when we're recording this episode, are watching the TV series, and you found one of your favorite characters, and you're just trying to figure out more about her, trying to understand her a lot more, you stop
Stop.
it.
You
Stop it
stop
right now.
right now.
No, stop. Now. Stop. No, you haven't hit stop. Stop now. Okay.
All right, now that they're gone.
No cheating. All right?
uh,
Because
God, that just
if you
reminds
if
me
you
of like looking up actors' names on like IMDb before you're done with at least a season of something.
Oh
'Cause that
yeah.
is so dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, tell the folks at home what we're talking about today, Andrew.
Yo, we talking about the OG as far as we see in the main series, the original, the very first that we come in contact with, the ever loved and still honestly frequently sometimes hated and frustrating, but ever lovely Moiraine Damodred.
Yeah.
You might know her as
Oh,
Alyss
Moiraine.
if you
Yeah.
come from, outlying, villages scattered, potentially on the way down the two rivers. Um,
Yes. Baerlon, you definitely know her
yeah.
as Mistress Alice.
You might know her as the lady that got real big and stepped over the wall because y'all wouldn't let her walk out.
Yeah. Stupid white cloaks.
But we are here to talk about the lovely Moiraine. So
Indeed.
she was born in the year 956 NE in Kirian, and is was the youngest daughter of Darasin Demodred, who was known as a scholar, um, who we apparently do not know the name of his second wife.
Huh.
And I will be right back because, of course, now that we've fully started, food is here. So
Nice.
just a
Go grab
moment.
it. No worries. All right.
All right.
Out of curiosity, just because I like knowing these things and such. Where'd you order from?
Lay dominoes.
Ah, Ibiza.
Yo, dog man, the Dama hoes brought me dominoes.
Mm-mm. Bear, 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 bear. I haven't fully figured out the voice changer thing yet,
uh,
so I am going to continue to do my sound effects with my mouth hole
mhm.
rather than trying to do it with the voice thing, because it still gets very confused when I try to use it with anything.
Eh,
I'll figure it out
whatever.
someday. I'll watch a video or something.
Mm.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Now that you have your dominoes,
So we first meet as far as the series in chronological order of date released as written. The fancy way of saying in the first book is when we meet Moraine.
indeed,
um, we see her when she arrives in Amon's field. Um, she's described as having dark hair that kind of hangs in ringlets. She looks to be roughly the same age as Nynaeve, but with large dark eyes that are described as belonging to a much older woman.
because of
Um,
course she is.
oh yeah. So this is a reference, of course, to the
Actually, I
Aes
guess
Sedai
she's
kind of
really
Aces
not
features.
that much older.
She's really not, but she
I mean,
for
like
the age she is, she looks young.
yes, well, and she is like twice as old as Nynaeve, which when you're talking about a 20-year-old or maybe like a 22-year-old, isn't that old? Like, because 40 isn't that old,
Yeah,
but she is twice as old as Nynaeve.
very true. Um, she's considered relatively short, standing at 5'2". Um, and her
Or
voice is
not for
described
those.
as
I
very
know
short.
that for some of you, this might actually be completely ruining your view of her, because we all know that Rosamund Pike is not 5'2". This has actually been a problem a little bit in the Twitter community, because most of us think that Rosamund Pike is going to do an excellent job, but some people are very hung up on the fact that she's too tall. So I'm glad that you don't think that. All of you people who are seeing her performance and not giving a shit what the book says, you're good people. Keep that up.
Indubitably.
Anyway,
When we first see her, she's wearing a sky blue velvet cloak with vines and flowers along the edges and thick silver embroidery, a golden woven belt, and a dark blue dress slashed with cream. Which,
mhm.
whenever I read that description, all I can think of is she had on this perfectly clean garment and someone like spilt like cream across her dress. Uh,
uh,
she wears her great serpent ring, which we all know is the ring that Aes Sedai are given to wear as a symbol of their status. Um,
indeed.
of the second finger of her left hand, which the more I think about it and the more I think about Moraine as she is through the remainder of the series makes me laugh even more because she literally wears it then on her middle finger
Hmm.
so that she can flip off the entire world and say, fuck you, I'm doing what I gotta do because I'm an Aes Sedai.
Hey, hey, guess what? Hey, I'm a
I,
nice to die. Go fuck yourself.
I really want to see Rosamund Pike as fucking Moraine. Like, look at one of the times where she gets questioned and just like hold up the ring on just that finger. Like, do you see this ring? Yeah, it means I'm doing what I got to do. Go fuck yourself, sheep herder. You know nothing, Randall
Just
Thor.
at some point in season 4, when she's finally, like, Maureen's character is finally at the no, gotta surrender to Sidar to make it do what you want, right? Do the same thing to Rand. Just have him walk away and her just be like, God, ugh.
Oh yeah.
Just right there. Just you like jazz? You like jazz, Randall Thor? Just just right there. Just this is good jazz.
Oh yeah. In addition to the Great Serpent Ring, she also wears the traditional Kyrian Kisera. I'm probably saying it wrong, but close enough. You know what the fuck I mean. And if you don't, I'm about to describe it to you. It's a jeweled pendant on
What?
a chain worn as a hair ornament on the forehead. Commonly made of a precious stone and is usually worn by high ranking Kyrian ladies. Which, guess what? Your girl Moiraine is.
What?
Uh,
You just blew my mind,
high ranking
Andrew.
enough to the point where she had to resist being put on the throne. They tried to put her on the
True.
Sun throne and she had to say no for years. Um,
Yep.
but for those of us that know Moraine, it's not just a fancy head ornament. It's not just a fancy
Yes.
trinket to hang from your hair. That's a focus right there. And what she's that thing for
Damn
is
straight.
you might be talking way over yonder, but from way over here, she can still hear what you're saying way over yonder. She got tricks. All right. Nothing Moraine.
Mhm.
And that's the thing I love about it is it sets a precedent for Moraine so early on that nothing she does is on a whim or for no reason. She's a very calculated, tactful person. Everything she does has a purpose, a goal, a meaning behind it. It's not, I mean, it may not always be like an enormous, magnificent goal, but there's always something more to Moraine than whatever you're seeing at the time you're seeing Moraine. And if you think you see everything that you should see from Moraine, you're wrong. Because
Absolutely.
in the famous words of what the fuck's his name that played in Now You See Me, he also played Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg. In his famous words, the closer you look, the less you see.
Indeed.
Fantastic actor. Did he actually play? Yeah, he did play Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know why I didn't reference
Yes.
Zombieland, especially since Zombieland Double Tap came out. Not as good as the
Yes.
first, as most sequels normally are. Still a good movie.
In fact, I would probably say that those are Jesse Eisenberg's three biggest roles that he actually got praise for. Because, of course, the fourth one that people would probably know him from is Lex Luthor, but
Mm-hmm.
very few people actually appreciated his portrayal.
I
Even
actually
though,
liked him as
again,
Lex.
I actually, oh yeah,
I thought he did
then
pretty
you'd be
well.
one of
He was too
you'd
young.
be one of a very few people who actually appreciated his performance.
No, don't
Just
get me
because,
wrong.
again, it's
Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say it's very different than the Lex that you get in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
And while I do think that most people, even comic book nerds, are capable of appreciating different takes on characters, um, that is not one that people seemed to really be interested in changing. So most people who understood and had read Lex Luthor as a character for many years in comics were like, this is a dumb portrayal. Why'd they make this decision?
Yeah.
Then again, they were also kind of like, this is a dumb movie. Why did they
Thank
make
you.
this movie? So,
I mean, that's all you need to know is the movie was trash. I mean,
pretty
literally,
much.
how do you have Doomsday get created and die within 5 minutes and introduce a 99.99% speechless Wonder Woman? I'm like, it's such a trash fucking movie. Like, if you look up on Urban Dictionary trash movie, it should be that movie.
Oh, the definition is, it's not in the definition, but it's definitely in the example.
Yeah, yeah, it's the picture. You know,
When they use it in a
among a couple
sentence.
others, you know, things like that. Um, the fucking Avatar: The Last Airbender live action movie, Dragon Ball
That's
Evolution.
that's not a trash movie. That's just a movie we don't even talk about.
Yeah, I try not to
You're
talk
not
about
allowed to mention that ever again.
it. That's fair. Anyway, back to Moraine, someone that is
Indeed.
definitely not a trash movie and will not be portrayed as trash because Rosamund Pike is like, I mean, to be fair, she's like Bay number 3 or 4, but she's still Bay.
You have too many bays.
Yeah, well, if only too many Bays had me.
Ooh, I like it.
um,
Yes, and back to your earlier point, I will also point out something new-ish. I mean, like not new. Obviously, fans of the series know this already.
Mm-hmm.
But she is of the blue Aja of the Tower, which is actually known for their planning and not so much deception, but like very, very big picture, very long viewing uh, plans and strategies and whatnot. So the fact that Moiraine has plans on plans on plans and knows things way before they're going to happen, or at least has a plan for things way before they happen, is pretty par for the course for her as a blue sister.
Yep. Modern society would call this diplomacy.
Indeed.
Very, very
Yes,
well
she is an
orchestrated diplomacy.
excellent politician
Oh yeah, that's I
who
mean, when I'm
uses
mistaken,
her
that's
politics
the
for the
hallmark of a
tower.
blue Aja is diplomacy,
Yep.
diplomacy and
Uh,
knowledge, and like
no, it's not.
spying knowledge.
To be fair, Grey Aja is diplomacy.
Are they really?
I mean, they're specifically the like
I think they're good at
treaties
negotiators.
and negotiating.
They're good at
And
negotiating, but like the Blues are really good at that active political pressure. I know secrets
that's fair.
diplomacy.
They are definitely more better at the active uh politics
Maybe it's
rather
more like a
I think the
subtle.
Greys are more the passive politics
Yeah,
of
maybe the Greys are
okay,
the
well,
more of like the de facto, like nothing hidden. Here's what we're offering. Here's what we think is fair, and we'll discuss it. Whereas the Blues are more of
yes,
a
they are the moderators.
emotional driven kind of. I don't want to say manipulative, but as far as you can say manipulative
Yeah,
without a
'cause again,
negative connotation, they do that kind of
yeah.
diplomacy. Like almost like insider trading, but just shy enough to where you don't get house arrest. Get
Oh,
at you,
Martha.
Martha. Make some good food though. I'll give you that. A lot of good recipes
Well,
came out of that
okay.
house arrest.
Seriously, just for a moment, again, rabbit holes are a thing, but I will apologize for every single one I go on. She's on a new set of commercials for Postmates, and I see them every once in a
Oh god,
while
I hate
on
them.
like my dopey little mobile games that I play. Because I play way too many
How
of
to make
them.
fish
And
tacos. Postmate fish
right?
tacos. You made fish
I made
tacos.
fish tacos.
They're still
It
better.
bothers me so
But they're
much
still better than
because
the
it's
Iggy
such a
Azalea one.
lie. No, I could not agree more. I absolutely agree.
What? I'm a chef. Bitch, no, you're not.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's also okay. So I know that part of this is only because she went to jail. And of course, she didn't even really go to jail. She went to a country club that was called jail and whatnot. And on one hand, like I loved, there was this meme that came out that was like, that had her in like a do rag or something. And it was like, my girl like Martha went to jail and like did her time, didn't squeal on anybody that she could have gone ahead and put away like a baller. And then it had like Takeshi 6ix9ine on the other side, and it was like, and this motherfucker is just giving people away left and right.
I love the picture where it's like Martha. You know, remember when like Martha and Snoop Dogg do the one thing where they cook together? They had the picture of like the thumbnail for that. And it was like one of the people in this picture is a convicted felon. The other one is Snoop Dogg.
Yep.
And it's like, oh shit. Like
Uh,
so many good things, dude. I remember like as a kid seeing that on like TV and just being like, what the hell is insider trading and why the fuck do I care? And why is it a felony? Somehow I understood
I knew
felony,
what it was.
but not insider trading at that age.
But I was also sitting there being like, yeah, but it's insider trading. So like,
Is it
again,
really like
she's going to go to a country club. This is a white collar crime. She's not going to be with anybody who's any kind of violent criminal. Plus she's rich. So like, she's really going to be forcibly sent on a resort or sent to a resort for a certain amount of time, which is very different than going to jail. but she's white and rich, and this is a white collar crime. So like, there's nothing's gonna happen to her. But at the same time, I do also like so that meme came out with like the her and Takeshi, and then like I saw every time I see those ads, I'm always like, bitch, this is why you went to jail. If you can't even be honest about what you made, like you're a chef. You teach people how to cook. Why are you trying to lie about making Thai chicken wings when you just postmated Thai chicken wings? Just stupid lies like this is what got your ass sent to the country club.
You could tell that like, don't get me wrong, I love Postmates to death and everything. I've used them plenty of times. I used them when I was in fucking California visiting you.
I remember.
Yeah, man.
We got 13 donuts?
Yeah, something like that. It was a good number of donuts.
It's like 13 or 14 donuts.
Okay, we got enough donuts where we ate like 3 or 4 that night in between your roommates, you and myself, and then brought them to the Josh family.
Indeed.
I don't think half of them trusted the donuts. Like, these LA boys probably trying to put marijuana in our donuts. Not today,
Satan. Let us in our donuts.
Well,
but anyway,
so Moiraine is a very notable, even now to people that aren't terribly familiar with the series, the most popular, most well known Aes Sedai from the Wheel of Time series.
And for good reason.
Oh yeah,
she's the well first and the last that we wait.
I don't think it's quite the last, but
no, it's definitely not the last. But she is the very first we ever meet.
Yep, she was a channeler that she was born with the ability to channel,
and she is dope. Like in terms of the stuff that she actually does in book 1. Like we don't see anybody else do that kind of stuff until much later.
Oh yeah.
She definitely has some of the most impressive channeling ability or choices that she makes as far as channeling in book 1.
Yeah. So here's a little bit of foreshadowing, but the Moiraine we first meet prior to Fires of Heaven, or from Eye of the World, through a certain incident in Fires of Heaven, was among the strongest active Aes Sedai, being equaled by only 3 other known active Aes Sedai in terms of her pure strength in the one power.
Indeed.
These women were Suan Shanchi, who was the Amerlin Seed at the time, Elida Du of Rani, I'm going to wreck your world because I'm a piece of shit. Oh, wait, no, her last name is Aroan. Sorry, I mispronounced that.
No, that was correct. It looks a little bit different on the page, but it's definitely Elida Do Evrini, I'm gonna wreck your shit.
Uh-huh.
That's the correct pronunciation.
So Elida,
and she is also equaled by Lelaine and Romanda. So there are actually technically 3, but Romanda is retired.
6'9". It's funny because last name is Akashi.
Oh. It is. Yes, and then Romanda Cassin, who was retired at the time of the Eye of the World, but actually comes out to be a pretty prominent figure later on in the books, is the only other person to equal her. And then, of course, there is one person who at the time of Eye of the World surpasses her. But we definitely don't meet her for a while. And that is Cadsuane Maladrin.
The Madam of Paw.
And then, of course, we meet a half a dozen other people who would definitely be better or stronger. I certainly shouldn't say better. Better is not the right word, but stronger in the power. We meet probably a half a dozen people at least.
You did see the meme I recreated in there in the Discord, right?
Oh yes.
I really wish I could have found the original one. For those of you who don't know, if you've seen the first John Wick movie, there's a scene where I can't remember names to save my life other than John Wick. The Russian father is talking to his idiot of a son that is pissed off John Wick. Please don't kill me, John. I'm sorry.
by killing his
Oh
goddamn
yeah, and
dog.
stealing his car, but mainly killing the goddamn dog.
Yeah, John didn't care
Right.
about the car. It
Oh
was
yeah,
the dog.
and it's in this back and forth, where action movies do this great thing where somebody's talking, and they keep flashing back to what someone else is doing, and it builds suspense, and it's fantastic. Um,
Hmm.
and he's like, "Well," when he's talking about, well, he's not exactly the boogeyman. He's the one you call to kill the fucking boogeyman. And then you have the scene where
Yep.
John's like busting open the concrete in his basement. And so the one I saw and the one that I attempted to recreate, it says it's 3 panels. The first two are the Russian dad, where it's like, well, she's not exactly the boogeyman. She's the one you call to kill the fucking boogeyman. And the last one is John Wick busting open the concrete with just the phrase "fall," as we all become so lovingly familiar with from Cat Swain.
Aw.
Just "fall." I
Ugh.
can't wait to see how that's portrayed on the screen just every 5 seconds. "Fall, fall, fall, fall." Sounds like a bad audio sample the way I just did it, but
Fa 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 fa.
Cad Swain air horn.
Ugh, gross.
Um, so back to back to Moraine and her strength. Um,
Indeed.
Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine all wind up surpassing Moraine in strength. Nynaeve most notably and marginally so. Like the margin is the greatest between their strengths.
Yes.
Prior to Fires of Heaven, and obviously even more so after. Um, Moraine is known to have a talent for cloud dancing, which is the name given to the talent to be able to affect and somewhat control the weather, as well as healing.
Hmm.
And her talent is particularly strong in healing. She was strong enough to travel,
Yeah.
but things happened before she ever learned how. She also had the ability, or has the ability, to use balefire, um, which she discovered the use for balefire herself by putting together knowledge from old books. And if you don't think that because of that, like this woman could have been any Aja she wanted and shine. Like this, restricting Moraine to one Aja alone is almost a disservice. Like
Almost.
if anybody other
Because
than
she
the
really
Amerlin
does
could wear
have
multiple colors,
aspects of a blue, aspects of a green, aspects of a brown. Like she is all of the things.
oh yeah, he's strong enough where even, where I'll say even, where Varen cites her as one of the few living, women that have the strength to use the Choden Call,
Hmm.
which if you don't remember what those are, and obviously because you're still listening, you've read the entire series. Remember the big statue of the
Yeah,
man with the crystal sphere and the big statue of the woman with the crystal sphere? And then you had the access keys? Yeah, that's the Choden Call. The
indeed.
hydrogen.
The most powerful sangreal ever
Yeah.
created.
Then they're, the
Ever.
hydrogen bombs of the Wheel of Time universe. Except they
Indeed.
don't disappear after one use, unless you're the dragon. Anyway, um, she,
uh,
despite the seemingly natural, disadvantage that female Chandlers had with, weaves of earth and fire, she was strong enough to create an earthquake and a wall of fire, strong enough to destroy hundreds of Trollocs and stop 3 Murdral. Um, of course, she knows she's not at her strongest using earth and fire. She was surprised that she was
mhm.
able to hold Agenor as long as she did, knowing that Agenor in the Age of Legends was close behind Luce, Theron, and Ishamael in power. Um, should be known at the time she was making ample use of one of the White Towers on Grial.
Yes, she actually has a little turtle
Turtle, turtle.
that she is using at the beginning of the she has borrowed without asking, which isn't actually stealing in this case because technically she's actually just borrowing it without asking. Um, but she does have a turtle angrial that is from the tower that she did not ask whether she could use.
Yep. But after a certain event, which I'm not going to specify because we're going to get to it, but something happens to Moraine, and her strength is reduced to the point that where she wouldn't have even at her natural everyday strength after this point, she couldn't have even made it or qualified to test for accepted, much less been an Aes Sedai. However, she attains an Angreal that is so strong it can almost be considered a Sangreal, and when she uses it, she is stronger than even her original strength. Which part of me says, "Oh, that's cool." Another part of me says that's a lazy cop out to deal with someone that should be far weaker than they actually are. It's something that's written in and given to them to make them as strong as you want them to be, so they don't look any weaker in terms of what's happening in the story. I like it because I like Moraine, but I don't like it because I don't like the device that it appears to be to me. But that's just me. In the end, Moraine's still a badass, and even if her story had ended where she lost so much of her strength, it's she still would be just an undeniable badass. I mean, the point where she loses most of her strength, her story could have cut off right then and there, and she would be no less the legendary figure that she's still considered.
Sorry, yes, absolutely. And it is interesting that they really did do a really good job of absolutely crushing Maureen's power because it makes sense for the story, but then also giving her a way to still impact the story. I mean, like, obviously, just her personality would be enough to impact the story. I'm certainly not saying that she'd be done if she couldn't channel, but like, even after going ahead and reducing her strength, that they're like, hey, let's give her something that can make her be able to channel again like she used to, because her channeling is so much better than her not channeling.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so her background, her uncle, specifically her paternal uncle. Yeah, that's the male side, right? Yeah. Her paternal uncle
Correct.
was the infamous king piece of shit Laman Damodred. Those of you that may not remember the phrase, yep,
Tree
that's Tree Killer.
killer.
You know the guy that cut down a tree and
Tree
started an entire
killer.
war that resulted in his death? Yeah, that was her uncle.
Yep.
So,
What an
needless to
idiot.
say, when she is around the IL, she doesn't emphasize any kind of blood relation to him. But that
Correct.
does make her minor royalty and in line for the throne of Kyrian until Galdrian Rhyton takes over until his own assassination. She was
Mm-hmm.
also the youngest half sister of Terengale Damodred.
Who we know
Oh,
of
yes, we do.
because he is Elaine and
Oh, yeah.
Gawain's father.
Because he married Tigraine Mantir, then the daughter heir of Andor, and sired a son, that's Galad, or Galadried, as his full name is.
Correct.
Um,
Galadadred.
Galadried.
Galadadred Damadred. What
There's
a
too many D's in one
stupid
fucking
name.
name. Um,
It's true.
but of course, when Laman dies, Erengale was denied the throne of Kyrian because he was married to the Queen of Andor. Um, but that's kind of
Indeed.
a different story. Um,
But
that
then Tigraine runs off into the waste
mm-hmm,
and he
mm-hmm,
remarries
mm-hmm.
Morgaze Tricand. And then he sires two kids, Gawain and Elaine. Wait, is it Gawinadred and
Probably,
Elainadred?
probably, and at least in his mind.
Probably.
But that does make her the aunt to Galad, Galwin, and Elaine. Um,
And She shares no blood connection with
Yeah.
Rand, which is really good because it gets really weird when you start to talk about that
And I
kind
was
of
like, where is he
stuff.
going? What have I missed? um,
Uh, though technically, she would actually be Rand's aunt, but like twice removed or whatever it's called. Because by marriage, she actually is
yeah.
Rand's aunt.
It'll be like an aunt-in-law if such a thing
Because
existed.
because Tigraine was technically still married to Tarangale when she left for the Wastes. And then, of course, she did not have Rand with Tarangale. She had him with fucking
Mm,
Janduin? Janduin. And so Rand shares no blood with a
correct.
Damodred. But by marriage, since they were still technically married, she is like his aunt in law,
Yeah.
sort of, which is just weird and funny. It also means that he and Elaine
Yeah.
are cousins. But, like, again, to the point where it's so many removed that they're
They're
not
cousins,
actually
but
cousins,
I mean,
but
well,
they're
they.
kind of cousins.
Eh,
Yeah, as I said, it's a lot of removals because again, Tarangale and Tigraine were married, and Tarangale is
yeah.
Elaine's dad. But again, Tarangale is not Rand's dad, but he was married to Rand's mother. So it gets weird and hilarious. But it does also make him and Galadadred
Yeah.
half
So he's
brothers.
related by the fact that his mom is also the mother of Galad. So there's a blood link there.
Correct.
And then Galad is
Yes,
related
there is.
to Gawain and Elaine by virtue of his father, but his father's blood. So
Correct.
because of Rand's mother and the blood link back to Galad, and then the blood link between Galad and his father and the father of Elaine and Gawain, Rand does knock up his cousin. Um,
Yep.
and therefore is also some sort of nephew to Moiraine. So
Yay.
yeah.
Gets weird.
Oh,
Fucking
hilariously
love
enough,
it.
that whole thing is never addressed in the series. It's never talked about. Like it's known, but
Well,
it's not
again,
talked
I
about.
mean, when it comes right down to it, most people, if we're being honest, at this time in this particular series, uh, I would not be surprised if there was some not like Lannister incest kind of stuff going with like brother and sister or like
Yeah.
whatever that kind of stuff, but there's like it's not weird for there to be inbreeding in a family with a couple of removals. So the fact that he and Elaine are like, yeah, no, this is fine, is actually not so
Oh
terribly surprising.
yeah. But
But
at
anyway,
16, Moraine discovered that she possessed the spark to channel the one power and left for the White Tower, to become an Aes Sedai. Um, it is known that she was very happy to remove herself from the House Damodred name. Um, though of course there was a
yes,
celebration, a grand dance thrown in her honor before she left. However, in truth, in absolute truth, Moraine was in fact a Wilder. Her ability to channel manifested before she turned 16 and outside of Aes Sedai guidance. Though she kept this a secret until she could tell King Laman's Aes Sedai advisor, and that advisor taught her for a very short time before sending her to Tar Valon. And all of this, of course, was kept secret so that Moraine could avoid the stigma of being a Wilder. At this point, before she gets to the White Tower, she had already taught herself her eavesdropping trick, amongst a few others. Um, as a novice in the White Tower,
Indeed.
she became close friends and pillow friends with Suan Sanchi. Um,
Bow chick. Bow,
they uh,
bow.
they actually arrived at the White Tower on the same day. They both became pillow friends for comfort and to ease their libidos, despite neither one being um, entirely or selectively lesbian. Uh, and they pretty much went through the whole ringer together. Moraine had the benefit of a classical education in the old tongue. And knew many of the politics and history of the world before she arrived at the tower, whereas Suan did not. Nevertheless, um, Moraine obviously was there by her own merit and skill in the One Power. It was during this time growing up with Suan and learning how to use the One Power that she could see that Suan was born to be a leader. After 3 years as novices, they became accepted, and after another 3 years, they became full Aes Sedai. And in the entire history of the White Tower, only one other woman had become Aes Sedai in such a short time, and of course, it was that piece of shit Elida. Um, oh yeah,
Oh, Elida.
animosity between Moraine and Elida would develop over the years to come, and Elida had always kept an eye on Moraine and Suan, pushing both of them to live up to her extremely high standards and not allowing a single slip. Um, during the Battle of the Blood Snow, which happened in 978 NE, Moraine and Suan were both accepted. And this, of course, was the day that the Aiel War came right up to the banks of the River Aran outside Tarvalin. Um, this is also referred to as the Battle of the Shining Walls, even though it did not take place. No, yes, no, because that was with the Trolloc. Never mind. Um,
Correct. That was during the Trolloc Wars, not the
um,
Aiel War.
uh, it was during this time that they were attending the then Amerlin seat, Tamara Ospanya, and her keeper of the chronicles, Guitarra Moroso. Moroso had the talent of foretelling, and it was that very day that, in the presence of Moraine and Suan, she foretold the moment the dragon had been reborn on the slopes of Dragonmount, not far away, and then immediately fell down dead. Um, this prompted Moraine and Suan to make the pact that we see uh, the results of and the process of in the Eye of the World, that we very quickly learned the motive of why she's even in Monsfield. They made a pact that they would find the dragon reborn and guide him, knowing that he's the only one that could save the world from the Dark One, but that others would try to either hinder him, kill him, or turn him to the shadow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
They're at an unspecified time prior to the events of 998 NE. She does visit the Green Man at the Eye of the World. So she has been there before, which becomes problematic.
Which is significant in the Eye of the World because it is claimed that no one can ever greet or encounter the
Yep, you can
Green Man
never encounter him
twice.
twice, and you can never ever find the Eye of the World in the same spot twice. In fact, you can't find it at all. You basically, yep,
Mm-hmm. It comes to
you
you.
basically just again another good John Wick reference from the latest movie. You wander around, and at the point where you feel like you're about to die, you keep walking and hope that they come to you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Moraine and Suan were made Aes Sedai on the same day. Coincidentally, the night before, they tried to prank Elida by sneaking mice into her bed, and of course, she caught them and punished them. It was around this time that several sitters began insinuating that Moraine should take the throne of Kyrian. It made her uncomfortable and added motivation for her to leave the White Tower, um, and do other things. Also, secretly, the task of trying to find the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, because Moiraine has actually never wanted any of the thrones, regardless of her
Yep.
claim to them.
Um, at some point during her decade-long search for the Dragon Reborn, she acquired an Angreal. I believe that is the turtle Angreal.
Yeah, and actually, this is claiming that she did get permission from the Hall of the Tower, so I guess she's actually just borrowing it. Now, I do specifically remember a line where once she makes it
Oh yeah,
back
they're like give it
to
here.
the tower, they're like, "Hey, you shouldn't have had that this long." And whatnot. And I thought that it was actually that she borrowed it without asking completely, but apparently I was incorrect. So she was just asked to give
I
it
mean, she
back
couldn't even give
later,
it back. The way I
uh,
read it, she
even
finds it
though
while she's out looking for the Dragon Reborn, and instead of returning immediately to the tower, through probably I would agree with what this article reports. Pressure from the Amerlin seat was given permission. All right, hold on to it, use it, but
yes.
when you come back, you got to turn it in. And none of the hall probably expected Moraine to be gone for as long as she was. I mean, it's a very short
That
time,
makes
in terms
sense.
of an
That
Aes Sedai
totally makes
lifespan, but probably not a short term whenever everybody else wants to get their hands on a new shiny Angreal toy. Because it was only 19 years
sense.
later.
Or at least get it back in the
Yeah.
tower where it
Because that's, of
belongs.
course, where all the Angreal were, right? It's not like there were any stockholds or storerooms of Angreal, or just laying out in the open in
There are.
Ruiden or what is it? Faldara, not Faldara, Abu Dar. Ilion. There's definitely not Angreal anywhere else, of course. They all are in the tower and belong in the tower.
Of
Oh,
course, they're
yeah.
all property of the tower. And even if they're just sitting in a courtyard in Ruidion or in a storehouse in Abu Dar, those are
Mhm.
all tower property.
Um, so 19 years into her search from leaving the White Tower, um, she's in the Borderlands and she comes across uh, the opposite of a weak man, the stoniest of men, with the best smolder gaze since Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Alan Mandragoran, the last king of Malkir. And they have a whole series of events that transpires during New Spring, which I can't comment on because I haven't read
Yes.
yet and will not read until I finish my reread of the series itself.
It's a good
I've heard
one.
about
I actually really like it,
the
so
pond incident.
I'm excited for you
Heard
to
about
get
the
there.
pond incident. Yeah.
That's just one of
Um,
them.
there's a lot that happens
There are a
between the
number
two
of
of them
incidents.
to strengthen their bond. Um, not as like, potential lovers, but as comrades, partners in arms, trusted colleagues.
I don't know. There are a couple of times where you
I mean,
think
yeah, I mean, you even
maybe.
see that in Harry Potter. Like there was a time where Harry could have straight up boned Hermione, but it didn't happen. Should have.
Correct.
That's a power couple.
Shouldn't have. See, to be fair, I actually still think Ron and Hermione is a
Eh,
power couple,
I feel like it was
so
a plot device used so it wasn't
I don't think
awkward
you
and
need
Ron had
Harry in
somebody to
there.
be with and, wasn't left standing there with his redheaded family and his sister who was moist for Harry the whole time.
Yes, it would have been very awkward had they put Hermione and Harry
I
together
didn't say
and
together. I
Ron
just
and
said
Ginny
standing
together.
there
You're
just with his
totally correct.
family. But even though that's not what I meant, it doesn't mean you're wrong.
Uh,
Um, so in Moraine's kind of lucky fashion to an extent, they wound up narrowing their search for the Dragon Reborn down to 3 boys that were born in the area of Amon's Field or that lived in the area of Amon's Field. Uh, and for her, her suspicions were confirmed when on winter night, the Trollocs invaded the Two Rivers region. And after the attack, in between, it says she and Lan, but it was more like Lan was there and just glanced menacingly at anybody that dared question Moraine. Um, which I guess, yeah, that is a form of persuasion. But They convince Rand, Matt,
Yeah.
Aaron.
In D&D, it would be
Yeah,
considered
true,
intimidation. You
true,
would do an
true.
intimidation check.
But convinces Rand, Matt, and Perrin to leave, and then Tom shows up, and then Egwene shows up, and then later on, Nynaeve shows up. But convinces them to leave and head for the safety of the White Tower. Um, and eventually, their journey takes them all the way into Shinar, and then to the Eye of the World, where Rand channels consciously for the first time. And soon after that, Moiraine is like, "Yep, I found the Dragon Reborn." Um, your
Indeed.
turn.
She then sends word immediately to Swan Sanche, who by this time is the Amerlin seat, and the two of them, with the unexpected help of Varen Mathwin, confront Rand with his destiny. Now, Rand immediately denies that this is his destiny, but also recognizes that it's true, and starts to make plans for himself. But eventually, he does go uh, with Moiraine and a small group to recover the Horn of Valir, uh, where he actually disappears at some point in that journey. And she does not see him again until after the Battle of Falma. After that, Moiraine basically sticks to Rand like, bad penny. The only time she leaves his side is during the events leading up to the fall of the Stone of Tyr, when Rand sneaks away from her to try and protect all of the people that he cares about, which is dumb. But he does go to get Kalendor, and is away from them for, I think, a week, maybe a couple, when he is ahead of them and stays ahead of them all the way up until making it to the Stone of Tyr and drawing Kalendor. Um, Despite his success, Rand resents what he sees as interference and manipulation by Moiraine, even though she does seem to try to help him. Aes Sedai are sneaky, and they are known to be sneaky. And so he does resent Moiraine for the reputation that Aes Sedai have, as well as he finds out a number of things that she keeps from him, and he keeps on confronting her with these things. And she has the good excuse of not really being able to tell him everything all at once, but it happens one too many times for Rand. And so he does take her to Ruidian after the Stone of Tyr falls, um, partially because she tells him that she has to go, because the wise ones have actually communicated with her. And the two have a bit of a compromise. Um, Basically, Maureen promises that she won't try to force Rand into anything, and Rand promises to listen to her advice, seeing as how it's mostly good advice. And now we get to Moraine's biggest event that she has in all of the books. Uh, and that is that after going to Rudian, going to the council where he ruins everything for the Aiel and then making it back to the wetlands, Rand is hellbent on confronting Ravin, who is in Camelin, uh, and Moiraine, knowing some of the future, takes Rand, Matt, Egwene, Avienda, and Lan to the docks in Carrion, uh, where she fulfills her future in some ways. Basically, she sees in Terangrial and Ruidian that a possible future at this point is that she will need to confront Lanfear and sort of kill her, because that's exactly what happens. Lanfear does show up. She tries to kill or turn Rand and kill Egwene and or Avienda, and when Rand is unable to stop her from doing that and cannot kill her, Moiraine tackles her through a redstone door frame that we've actually seen two copies of. One that Matt actually goes through in Ruidion, and the other that actually all three of them go into in Tarvalon.
The stone. Yep.
No, in the Stone of Tyr. Sorry, in the Stone of Tyr, not Tarvalon. My bad. Stone of Tyr. And this is where everyone thinks that Moiraine is dead, because Lan can no longer feel her. Their bond is effectively null and void at this point, which typically only happens when an Aes Sedai dies or a warder dies. She does not reemerge, which is actually pretty typical in terms of the way that they have used the red door frames previously, as well as this door frame seems to pretty much be completely and utterly destroyed and melted. So everyone is under the impression that Moiraine is dead, and she passes her water bond to Myrell Berengari, so Lan heads that way since he can no longer feel Moraine's bond with him. This is a long stretch where we don't actually see Moiraine. She does not actually reappear until much later. And she is at much less power than she was when she actually goes into the ter'angreal, though, as stated, she does actually find within the ter'angreal a way to get herself back up to her old strength. But one of Egwene Alvir's dream visions actually helps Moiraine understand what is all going to happen and set up her own rescue, because she sends a letter to Tom just before she actually ends up in the ter'angreal, saying that he and Matt are going to be instrumental in her escape from the Eelfin. And he gets it, as stated, like the day before she dies. Min and Egwene actually both have viewings about Moiraine, so you do get the sense that she's not actually gone forever, even though there is not a whole lot of evidence to say that she won't be. But in the letter to Tom, she says that Tom and Matt and one other will need to go to the Tower of Genje to access the realm of the Aelfin and the Eelfin. And they must only go with those three, otherwise their mission will be a complete failure. And even if they only go with those three, their mission still might not be successful. But that they will need to remember what they know of the game Snakes and Foxes, which is an interesting reference, because the game cannot actually be won using the rules of the game. Until you actually discover that you have to break the rules, then you can't win. And this is actually something that Matt knows very well and is shown a number of times when Matt plays the game with Olver, because he kind of laughs at Olver because he's so young that he still expects to be able to win the game without breaking the rules. and Matt knows that that is not possible. Um, Another thing that is known about the game, aside from the rules themselves, is that it begins with a player saying, "Courage to strengthen, fire to blind, music to dazzle, iron to bind," while drawing a triangle with a wavy line through it in the air. Uh, According to Birgitta, drawing the symbol on the Tower of Genji will open a doorway to the dimension of the Eelfin and or the Aelfin. And from Matt's trips through the Terangrials, we know that the Aelfin and Eelfin ask whether visitors have brought fire, iron, or musical instruments because they are prohibited by the agreement. Which we don't actually know anything about the agreement, but we do know that it is very, very important to the
I really
Aelfin
like what they
and
did
the Eelfin.
with a children's game and its link to this absolutely mysterious, almost haunting reality of the Alphen and Elfin. Um,
Indeed. Well, and it's also one of those great moments where you really feel the history in the world again. I mean, like, again, you have like the Crystal Forest, you have, the a bunch of other different things. And this is one of those moments where really you have to you just kind of think about for a moment how many different paths did that saying and that symbol go through before they ended up being the things that you say before you play a kids
oh yeah,
game. Like, what? It's great. There's so much history that
yeah.
you don't
I mean, so
even
the only things we
necessarily
know about the
know.
agreement is that whoever was coming into the realm of the Alphen and Elfin as part of their, it almost seems like it was an agreement made that results in the creation of the Redstone doorways. Basically, a you can come to us,
Hmm.
ask your questions, we will answer them, always with truth, never with a lie. Obviously, there's some difference in the way the Elfin and Alphen handle it. Um,
Well, it's actually not totally. The Aelfin is questions, and they will give you truthful
yeah,
answers. The Eelfin make a bargain, so it's not even necessarily about questions. In fact, they won't answer any of Matt's questions, and he gets very frustrated because he really just wants questions answered. He doesn't care about a bargain, and totally doesn't understand what's going on. And they're like, "Stop asking questions, make requests, god damn it. Like, you have
yeah,
3 requests, and we'll give you whatever you want as long as you just ask us for stuff, because it's not questions that we
yeah.
answer, it's
I mean,
stuff
it
that
seems
we
clear
give."
that like the Alphen and Elfin motives for doing what they're doing aren't exactly clear. um, However, the
Yes.
desires of, I guess, what we could call regular mankind, the people that we see every day in Randland and through the series, obviously wanted a way to go somewhere and get answers to questions they had that only these creatures could answer, to the extent that they thought they wanted, and to make deals and bargains and to get things that um, they didn't know another way to get. And the only thing we know of their requirement to
Yes.
the world we know of it is that basically we'll do this, but when you come to us to ask your questions and stuff, um you don't bring these things. You don't bring fire, you don't bring iron, you don't bring instruments of music,
Yes.
things that obviously are all, as we see during the rescue of Moraine, uh wind up being the weaknesses that the Alphin and Elfin have.
Yep. And of course, it's actually very funny that Tom has one of them, Matt has 2 of them, and then the other person who's with them just has knowledge. Just is well informed. and that ends up being probably the most helpful thing. But like at the same time, Noel doesn't bring anything with them that's helpful as far as material stuff, because Matt has the fire. Matt has, well, I guess all of them technically have iron, but really it's Matt has the Asheron die, uh, and the and then
Yeah.
Tom clearly has the musical instruments because he doesn't go anywhere without them. But yeah, so you want to talk about her
I
rescue,
can
or do
if you
you
want
want me
me to
to
take back over.
continue?
So, as
Go
previously
ahead.
stated, Matt, Tom, and Noel they go to the Tower of Genji, in order to rescue Moraine. They use the method learned from, well, explained by Brigitte, but technically learned through the game of Snakes and Foxes,
Yes.
to enter the tower. Uh, and so they draw the symbol on the Tower of Genji, and it opens a portal, opens a doorway into the realm of the Elfin and Alphen. They have tortures, as stated. They have Eludra strikers, spears and short swords, and of course, Tom has his flute and harp. And they find themselves in a labyrinth with strange halls and doors, like we've seen before when they go through the redstone doorways. This time, they have no guide. Um, Thanks to Matt's
Correct.
incredible luck, they find their way into an area. Oh yeah, they find
A
their way
dark
into a
one's
place
own
called the
luck.
Chamber of Bonds, which is where they find a barely conscious Moraine trapped and suspended in a mist. Um, to the Chamber of Bonds is where we see the bargains made with the Elfin, and it's also
Mm-hmm.
where we see. Well, yeah, the Chamber of Bonds seems to only be in reference to the Elfin. Um, Maybe not. The only examples are given definitively of it being the Chamber of Bonds is with the Elfin, but it, yeah, so it is only the Elfin. Sorry, I don't know why I'm getting like twisted around. Must be the confusing labyrinth that
It's
makes
all
up this
good.
tower. Um, well, this is exclusive to the Elfin, or appears to be exclusive to the Elfin. But while there, Tom does free Moraine, and Matt is forced to bargain with the Elfin to leave with Moraine and receive unbarred passage out of the world. Um, Realizing the meaning of the Elfin's predictions, when he got his questions answered, and they told him he'd have to give up half the light of the world to get what he wanted. He does give up his left eye in order to save Moraine. And following this, they are able to get safe passage
Yep.
out. Um, However, it does become a wild chase as the Alphen show up, and we're not part of the original, not part of this bargain, so they are not barred from pursuing and taking on. At this point, that Noel Charon reveals himself to be
Indeed.
Jane Farstrider and sacrifices himself in order to buy time for the others to get away. Oh yeah, it's
Which is
really
one of the
cool.
coolest reveals. Especially again, because Jane Farstrider has definitely been a character that we know of in terms of like a reference that has been made a number of times in the books, but it's Jane Farstrider isn't even a hero brought back with like the Horn of Valir or anything. We don't see Jane Farstrider until this moment. I mean, like we have been because Noel's been around, but like we didn't know that it was Jane Farstrider. But like Rand and Egwene and Tam and a number of other people make so many references to the book, The Travels of Jane Farstrider and whatnot, which I might be wrong, but really seems to be like an old book. And it definitely feels like Noel, after being after dying in this moment, is absolutely going to be one of the heroes of the Horn. He just like wasn't, because he was stuck in a flesh body when it was first sounded. But I don't know. It's a
Oh
really
yeah.
cool reveal. I like
Um,
this one.
so they wound up getting cornered. Matt remembers that uh, the elfin had given him a way of escape in the form of the Ashandare. Um, sees this as, a way out, draws the same symbol they had used to enter on the wall, and this does open a new exit, and they escape out of the tower back into the world they are familiar with. Um, once finally free, Moraine reveals that the Elfin and Alphen have decreased her ability to channel because they have been using her to feed off of the one power, or the ability to channel. She does, however, now
Yeah.
possess a bracelet Angreal that allows her to be even stronger than she was before. Um, almost seems like a bit of a bargain. Like, we're gonna feed off your ability to channel, but we're gonna, because we have to do a bargain, we're gonna give you something that you can use to restore your ability to channel. Uh, so
Yep.
when she went through the Terran the ancient treaty held for both her and Lanfear, and she was granted three demands. One of her demands was getting the Angreal. Um, but as of this point, whatever the other two demands were not revealed yet to anyone. Um,
This is actually also a really interesting moment, because it kind of seems like a very interesting parallel to her, or to Matt, because while I do absolutely appreciate that Moraine had a lot more knowledge of what goes on behind the red door frames, as well as knew that she wasn't going to make it out and that she was actually going to need rescue. On the other hand, it almost feels like she just kind of made a bargain and ended up getting trapped rather than Matt almost dying. And it kind of feels like maybe this is one of the moments where she gets taken down a peg. Because while she knew that she was going to need rescue, I don't know if she knew that it was going to be specifically because the eelfin were going to hold her captive and take from her. And when she makes this agreement to get the Angreal and her other two demands, does she agree to having them take her ability to channel? Or is that just what they take from her regardless
I
of
mean, I
her
could see it as a
wishes?
trade off
I don't
for the
know. It's an
Angreal, like,
interesting thought.
give me something to greatly magnify my strength and the power. And they're like, okay, but in return, we're gonna start taking away your ability to channel the one power. And there's also the hint here that they feed
Yeah,
off
that's
of the
fair.
one power. That's like a source of sustenance for them.
Yes. Well, and of course, that's probably one of the reasons that, obviously the Aelfin uh, just answer questions and then they sort of let you go. And they even were a little bit weird about it kind of feels like Rand, at least when he leaves the redstone doorway and the stone of Tyr, um,
Hmm.
seems to leave very defensively. And so you kind of feel like they might not have really let him out had he not kind of scared them into letting him out. But they don't actually have that much interest in like holding on to Matt. And he just kind of gets kind of cut loose both times. And I think that
Hmm.
part of that is because he can't channel. So they're like, all right, well, we don't care if you leave because you can't channel and we don't want shit from you.
Yep. um.
But this is one of the moments where the fandom is very torn on something that they like or not. And that is that after the rescue, Tom, Matt, and Moiraine are left very tired from their ordeal. And they go down to rest. They discuss things that have happened. They kind of talk about the future as well as what had occurred to her during her captivity. And um while they are discussing this and chilling out, she kind of comes out with a weird request because it kind of, again, it doesn't actually come out of nowhere, but like definitely if you read the books the first time, it kind of comes out of nowhere because she asks Sam to marry her and he accepts. And now that she is actually warderless, she does
Hmm.
make him her warder. Which is kind of funny because on one level you're like, yeah, she didn't want to get rid of Lan, but at the same time, she is now free to not have Lan like in her head, fucking with her shit. So she can just
Very,
have Tom
very excited.
and be excited. But anyway, I knew you'd like
So
that.
after this, Moraine does appear. Why am I yawning? Oh, sorry. Moraine appears at the field of
It's
Marilor,
all good.
where Ran and leaders of the other nations are discussing the Dragon's Peace, and she walks in again at the opportune time, just as Ran is saying, "Fuck this, fuck you, fuck everybody, fuck this peace, I'm out." And she convinces him to stick around. And not only does she help him, but she looks at all the other leaders and reminds them, like, "Hey, you know all these fucking prophecies we've talked about for centuries? You know, about how this guy standing right in front of you is gonna be the salvation of mankind, but if we do things wrong, he's gonna fucking destroy us all. Maybe you wanna do things." Yeah.
Yeah, maybe don't
But
fuck
it
that
saves the
shit up.
talks, and everybody continues talking and winds up signing the agreement. Um, Moraine is with Rand when he travels to Land's camp in Shinar, um, and tries to convince him not to go out into the battle. He says, "Nope, I gotta do it. I gotta, try to save my people." And he disappears. And about half a second later, he comes right the fuck back because the Dreadlords are looking out for his ass and tried to shield him using a full circle. So Marine's like, "I fucking told you not to go." Uh,
And he's like, yeah, yeah, I get it. Just fucking give me a sec.
oh yeah. Um, she goes with Ran, and they're standing just outside Shao Gul, and he's testing whether or not the Dole Dagger is working or not. Um, for those of you that may not remember, the Dole Dagger is a Terangreal that was found in the storeroom in Abu Dar, um, and Avienda was able to
Hmm.
identify its talent, or its use or intended purpose, because she has the talent of reading Terangreal. Um, but whoever possesses the dagger becomes invisible to Shadow Spawn, including Murdrall and Trollocs. Um, and it's Avienda that gives the hint that it is
Yep.
possible that even the Dark One himself may not be able to see its wielder. Um,
Which
hmm.
is never technically confirmed, but
um, so, uh, Marie, why do I keep fucking yawning? Jesus. Um, yeah, that's true. That's true. I have
because
been
it's
up since
almost
like
10
6.
o'clock there.
So, um, Moraine and Rand, they catch up for a moment before he, launches his attack on Shao Ghul, and she's trying to figure out what his plan was with the Dark One. And Rand's like, "I want to make peace with the Shanshan first, because Matt be dating and banging the Empress."
Hmm.
Um, oh yeah.
Which is helpful as far as peace is concerned. Unless she's mad at him, and
This
then
is when
it's not
Rand
helpful.
reveals to Moraine that he actually wants to kill the Dark One, that he's not actually a part of the Pattern. Moraine doesn't believe it can be done, and he tells her that he has more wisdom over his accrued lifetime, counting Lewis Theron's life, but she brushes it off, knowing he only has the memories. Uh,
And of course, we're actually not even really 100% sure that those are Luce Theron's memories,
Mhm.
because some of that is just Rand being crazy.
So after a little episode surrounding tea, uh, I would love to be able to stop yawning so I could actually talk for more than 5 seconds without having to stop. This is getting fucking ridiculous. Um, Basically, after an episode surrounding
Uh,
tea, Moraine counsels Rand to stop delaying his attack on Shao Ghul and that he should not try to go to the Black Tower because it's a trap for him. She does accompany Rand to Shao
mhm.
Ghul along with Nynaeve and Tom in order to assist Rand with a power circle. Tom, of course, waits by the entrance into Shao Ghul, uh, and Tom and Moraine share a nice, sweet kiss goodbye, because of course there's no reason for them to believe that they're going to survive this ordeal. And as they enter the pit,
Yep.
Moraine is absolutely astonished and shocked when they hear the creator speaking to Rand. They then run into Morden, who has come to confront and defeat Rand. Of course, that should be his job because he's the fucking Nay Bliss. Um,
Damn
so
straight. It's gonna be my role.
Moraine and Nynaeve link to provide their power to Rand, who draws upon it to wield Kalendor against Morden. Uh, but during this whole ordeal, there's a maelstrom, there's a massive storm that's going on, and prevents them from moving and keeps them held in place. Oh, I'm gonna have to edit out my fucking yawns. This is
Till
ridiculous.
Rand.
I've yawned like 7 times in the last minute and a half.
Uh,
Oh,
I
they're
think you
honestly
can
kind
keep
of
them
pissing
in.
me
I
off. To
think
be
they
honest,
give
you
you
ever got
character.
pissed off with your own bodily functions like yawning?
Oh yeah, when you like cough
Yeah,
too much or sneeze too much or yawn too much and you're like, "Mother, seriously?"
it's like literally these my body
Yep.
here. Hey, brain, think making me yawn. It's only making me take more time to do this. So if you're wanting me to go to sleep, you're being fucking counterproductive.
Stop it.
Um,
Yes.
but so basically, it's
Uh,
until the brink where Rand is about to defeat the Dark One that um Nynaeve and Moraine can't move, and they watch as he just drops Kalendor. In his
yes.
fight with Morden, Morden picks up the sword to use it against Rand. However, at this point, Moraine and Nynaeve are like, "Oh wait, we control the power of the sword." So they then pull energy through Morden, thereby also using the true
Yep.
power, which then, because of the link to Rand, gives Rand access, and Rand then reseals the bore. Um, she and Moraine and Nynaeve then escape the cave, and she collapses into Tom's waiting arm. And then at his funeral, Moraine does in fact mourn Rand. It's not. It doesn't appear to be a farce. There's no inclination that it's a farce. It looks like true mourning, just like as it does from Nynaeve and so many, basically everyone else except for Catswain, Elaine, Min, and Avienda. Um, so that tells us
Yes.
that she was not at least fully aware to the extent of the flaw in Kalendor and what it could be used for. Um, which is fine. I think honestly, life for Moraine is better off thinking that Rand is deceased, um, as it is for many people.
Correct. I think Life for Rand is actually better with Moraine thinking he's dead as well. And like again, certainly not saying that Moraine is not right a lot, and certainly not saying that he would have even remotely survived to being part of the last battle without her. She is a badass. She is absolutely incredibly wise, but at the same time, I think it's time for both of them to go their separate ways
Oh yeah.
and to not have to deal with each
Um,
other.
so before we get into more philosophical discussion and kind of broad topics about Moraine, something I always take a lot of joy in, because I do love history, I do love mythology, and often that's where the etymology and parallels comes from.
Mm-hmm.
The name Moraine might be connected to the Moiraine, who I believe from Greek philosophy, commonly called the Fates as well. They control the metaphorical thread of life of every mortal from birth to
Yes.
death. This could be consistent with the series' main philosophy. It may also reflect the fact that Moraine dedicated her life to not specifically Ram, but to whoever wound up being the Dragon Reborn. From the moment that his birth was foretold, and
Yes.
because of men's viewings, would presumably continue to do so until his death. Again, men's viewings are by and large a big part of why Rand, when he distrusts all other Aes Sedai, still gives trust to Moraine, because he trusts and loves men and
Mm-hmm.
knows that men's viewings do come true. And she's like, I have seen it with my good eye. She's not gonna harm you. She's not gonna do anything against you. Everything she does is trying to help you and be by your side to make sure that you don't fuck this up, and by extension, fuck all of us up. Just deal with it. Like, just motherfucker, do it.
Yep.
Um,
Now, interestingly enough, I actually found out I didn't know this, and just while we're talking about this, because this seems like somewhat of an apropos thing, it actually feels like there should sort of maybe be three characters who are like fate characters in the books, and it kind of makes sense that it would be Moraine, Min, and I'm not 100% sure who would the last one would be. But one of the things that you don't see necessarily in a lot of like references to the fates in like Greek mythology, or the Moirae, uh is that there are three of them for a really good reason. Like in the movie Hercules and whatnot, you're kind of sitting there being like, why do there need to be three of them? Why does that make sense? But apparently that's actually because one of them reads the scroll of fate. One of them measures the length of the thread, and then the final one actually cuts each mortal's thread at the right time. And I did not know that. I actually didn't really think that there was a good reason that there was three of them. And again, I mean, it could be argued in some ways that there's still not really a great reason that there's three of them, because one entity could technically do all three of those things. But it is something that I actually found out very recently, oddly enough, from an episode of Criminal Minds. And I actually thought that it was really really cool that in um in the mythology and whatnot, while again you could argue that there doesn't need to be three, I think it's cool that they gave each one of them a distinctive purpose and didn't just make it like three fates that it doesn't need to be three fates for. It actually
and they
does
actually all three
matter
have
that there
names,
are
right?
three of them, so I thought that was cool. Yes, I
So
did.
there's
I
one
don't know
named
what they are.
Clotho, which is Greek for spinner. That's the one that would spin the thread of life from her distaff onto her spindle, and was originally a goddess called upon in the ninth month of pregnancy, which would make sense. Like, you know, make the pregnancy go through,
Huh.
start
Yeah.
this thread of life.
Yes, spin the
Second
actual
one was
thread. Yeah.
Lachesis,
That's
which
cool.
is Greek for allotter or the drawer of lots. This was the one that would measure the thread of life allotted to each person with her measuring rod. And the last was Atropos, which
Hmm.
was Greek for inexorable, inevitable, literally unturning. She was sometimes called Isa. This was the cutter of the thread of life, and she chose the manner of each person's death. And when their time was come,
Yeah.
she cut their life thread with her abhorred shears, which each one has a Roman equivalent because the Romans took all the
Yes.
Greek gods and goddesses and were like, same thing, different name. Yeah. The
These
work
are
you
mine now.
did, look at the work I did.
Yeah. Just let. Yes. Hey, can I copy your homework? Yeah, just change a few things so that nobody can tell that you copied me. Okay, cool. So it's Pluto and Jupiter and Mars. You can't just change the
Yeah.
names.
These are
Change
also
other
the ones that
things, you
are
butthole.
well, I mean, we see it, most people probably remember it from the Disney animated Hercules movie. where the sisters would share that one eye,
Indeed.
and use it to to see the past, present, and future.
Yes.
Um, this idea comes from the work of Plato called the Republic, and the three Moria sing in unison with the music of the Sireness. Lachesis sings the things that were, so the one that measures the threads of life would talk about the past, sing about the past.
Yes.
Clotho, or the one that spins the threads of life, would talk about the or sing about the things that are. And Atropos, kind of almost in a fit of irony, being the one that ended life, would talk about the things that are to be or the future. Um, yeah.
Interesting. This is really cool stuff. Honestly, like as much as it's kind of a joke, just because again, like 99% of Greek mythology can actually be somewhat boiled down to, hey Zeus, don't fuck that thing. I'm definitely gonna fuck that thing. And then life happened. Like so much of it can be boiled down to that kind of like simple truth. But at the same time, there's so much fascinating stuff that you don't know. Just like you actually have to really get deep into like
So
Greek
fascinating.
mythology to really understand the different play and like the different facets of so many of the different gods and the way that they worked together and the way that they worked against
Oh
each
yeah.
other and like all of
So
it's super fascinating.
because of Moraine's seeming ability to,
Anyway,
whether it's by virtue of using the redstone doorway or just her innate intuition, she
or the two times that she saw the future both in the Terangrial
yeah, that's
underneath the
very true.
tower and the Terangrial in
This
Meridian.
fits, but the next one that is outlined that I reading it, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely like that's fantastic. Is a parallel to Merlin, from of
Yeah,
course
yeah,
Arthurian legend.
100%.
And of course, in the
Yeah.
legend, Merlin is Arthur's trusted advisor and helps him after he pulls the sword from the stone. Wink, winkety wink, fucking wink. Literally, literally. Rand pulls a sword from the stone, and then they finally come together and be like, "Look, let's just fucking work together, all right? You advise me, and I won't shut you off." And they're like, "Cool." Um, Merlin meets his end in one version by being
Yep.
trapped in an invisible tower, Tower of Genji. Um, and there's also a character by the name of Nimue from Arthurian legend, who is also called Nynaeve in one version, that hates. Yeah,
Which we've actually talked about before because we did the episode on Nynaeve and we talked about her
yeah.
being
But of course, this
her
character
etymology from that as
hated
well.
Merlin, but steeled herself so that she could learn from Merlin, much in the way that Nynaeve does. Um, Another possible influence in the naming and character development of Moraine comes from the Slavic goddess Marzana. Um, yeah, it's associated with the seasonal rites
Marzana.
based on the idea of death and rebirth of nature. Also associated or still associated with death, winter, and nightmares. The theme of death and rebirth is a vital part of Moraine's arc. As we see in the first book, she's especially insistent on Rand, Perrin, and Matt informing her of any nightmares they may be having. And she is one of the Blue Aja and described frequently as being
Truth.
cool looks or having a cool or cold demeanor, all of which subtly allude to winter. Um, she throws those glances and glares at people like, you better calm down.
Nice.
Um, Notable
If
personal
looks could
quotes.
kill.
I think ranked from the third most popular to the most popular would be live with what you cannot change. You learn nothing if you put someone's back up to start. And the most notable quote from the entire series.
The 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 wheel weaves as the
Uh,
wheel wills. Oh, I thought
I
we were
mean,
gonna do it together.
I wanted to let you have your moment. I
No,
could tell, I could tell you wanted to say it.
aw, thank you.
Um, but
I did. Which is honestly
oh yeah,
she says it so much
Even
And
the
it's
characters are
so
like, "What?
accurate. Like,
I get it.
again,
Fucking shit happens for a reason. Can you tell me something else?" It is the end series equivalent of asking
yep.
questions about the series and getting the read and find out answer. Because a lot of the characters have the same response that a lot of us
Yep.
do have to the RAFO fucking response. Like, not sure if they're trying to make me smarter or if they just don't actually know themselves. Little column A, little column B.
Yep. Well, and also I really love one of the things that I love about that quote is that it's so okay, recently there was an a Christmas ad for the Peloton bike, and it got all kinds of controversy because of the way that, this thing was portrayed and whatnot. And uh I think Trevor Noah. Yeah, it was Trevor Noah who actually said one of the most apropos things about that particular ad. If you're not super familiar with the ad, let me just go over real quick. There's a husband who gets his wife a Peloton bike for Christmas. Peloton being an exercise bike that is attached to like personalized or just like um broadcasted like coached sessions. And she seems really excited about it right from the get go. And then she uses it for a year. And part of the ad is like her being really excited about using it for a year, but then also like finding that it's difficult to actually use it for a year. Anyway, all of this aside, she is very skinny. And so Trevor Noah came out and he said one of the controversy or the controversy of this ad comes from your initial view of exercise. If you think that exercise is a great thing that people should do more of, and is absolutely just a way to make your life better without necessarily needing to specifically lose weight or do anything along those lines, then you have no problem with the ad. Because of course she seems excited about it, her husband seems excited about it, everybody in this situation seems to like this as a present. If, however, on the other hand, you think that exercise is only a means to an end, and it is hard, grueling, gross work that eventually makes you lose weight and do whatever, you're going to be questioning this ad and sitting there being like, why the fuck is he giving this woman who's like stick thin already an exercise bike? Because who would exercise if they didn't need to? And that is one of the things that I like about this, the wheel weaves is the wheel wills quote, because depending on where you are in the books or just your view on fate or predisposition or anything like that, it takes on such a different meaning. Because on one hand, if you read it and you think that fate is changeable, then her always saying this is kind of her saying, no, 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 no. The wheel weaves is the wheel wills, and we get to say how the wheel wills. So we get to say how the weave happens. And on the other hand, if you think that you're stuck in this, I only get to do what the wheel tells me to do, and I don't really have any choices, and I don't really have any whatever, it's kind of a comforting thought that you have no responsibility over your actions. And that, that guy died, and I had to kill that guy. But the wheel weaves is the wheel wills, and it was the wheel's fault, not mine. And so it's one of the most fascinating sayings to me that like it can be taken so many different ways and it's still so simple. Like it's not a long quote, it's not a long phrase, it's not one that like, you know, takes a paragraph to say. It's just this little missive that you never really know how Moiraine is saying it. Because she could be saying it in like one of three different ways every time she uses it. And yet she always uses it and it always makes sense. And you're just like,
Yeah,
holy
it's kind
fuck.
of just like saying, oh, everything happens for a
Anyway,
reason.
exactly. No, and that's one of the things I like about it. Because again, everything happens for a reason. another great saying that, like, depending on your view right now in your life, means something completely different than to somebody else who's somewhere different
That is
in their
very true.
life.
Very true.
And I love it.
Oh, man. I mean,
Anyway,
Moraine is just one of those characters that,
but there you go.
at least for me, 90% of the time, you love the character. Um, there is a good chunk of time.
Yes.
There's specific chunks of the story where you're kind of like, the fuck. Because, all the way up through the Stone
Yes.
of Tear, she is fighting to be around all three of the Amonfield boys. Um, Wanting to know everything they're doing, everything they're trying to do, where they're going, what they're doing. And then Rand takes Kalendor. And Moraine goes, all right, cool. And
Yep.
literally looks like she's doing whatever she can to avoid them. Um, Ultimately,
Yep.
she says that she was doing it because she was trying to protect them. To put it in modern comparison, a lot like the same way where I forget which, I think it might be. I mean, I know it's Harry Potter.
It's
Yeah,
Harry
and
Potter,
I'm getting there,
where
but I'm trying to remember the
Dumbledore
book. I
says that
think
he's
it's
not.
Half Blood Prince. This, is it Order of the
No,
Phoenix?
it's Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah, that's right. That's because that's what makes it so shocking to Harry when
Yes.
Dumbledore shows up at the end. But for different reasons. Ultimately, like
Yes.
Dumbledore's like, oh well, he's just trying to get to me, so let me stay away from
Correct.
you, and he won't fuck with you as much. And he's wrong. Versus Moraine, where it's a,
Mm-hmm.
how do I explain what it is? Yeah, it's
It's a
part I
complicated
need to
mess.
find out and figure out other stuff because the plans I had up to this point led up to you fulfilling some prophecies, and you just fulfilled one that I honestly didn't think you were ready for and could have avoided. But the will weaves as the will wills. You have the fucking crystal sword now.
Yep.
Fuck me. Let me figure out where to go from here. Oh, what's
Yep.
that? There's dark hounds coming from Ilion.
And also, we also deal with,
Oh, I mean,
right? Oh, and let me also deal with the fact that my plans did not really include these other two incredibly
I
strong
expected to
Taviran
find a
being
dragon,
around
but I
you.
found 3 Taviran.
Now I have to read.
For anyone else, this is joy. For me, this is pain and ass.
I, yeah. I went to Emmonsfield to find one dragon, and I ended up finding a dragon, a raven, and a
Not to
wolf.
mention
The fuck?
the next strongest Amerlin in memorable history.
Yes. As well as my rival through the entire books, who I don't actually
Yeah.
consider a rival,
But at
but
the end of the
is.
day, at least the Amerlin that Moraine doesn't realize she's discovered becomes a very nice, shining, brilliant pillar to everybody else. And her shitty boyfriend
Indeed.
disappear from existence. As sad as it is what happens to Egwene, I don't
Yeah.
think anybody's necessarily sad about fucking Gawain.
R.I.P. Egwene.
Get the fuck out of here.
Fucking good
But
riddance,
everybody has to
Gawain.
die in pairs, balance and shit. Suwan and Brian.
No, it's true. I'm so sorry. We actually trained Gawain wrong on purpose as a joke.
I did
So
hate the
good.
fucking scene where he died, not because he died, but
Uh,
because of what he says when he dies. I just wasn't good enough. I've never been good enough, and I'm like, no, you don't fucking wait till the fucking end of the series to suddenly start listening to My Chemical Romance, you little fucktard. I'm dying. I am suddenly
yep. Well,
self-aware.
and of course, again, you understand. Well, I'm sure that we'll talk about this character at some other time. It'll be a relatively short uh
We just talked
episode
about it.
because it'll
Gawain
just be
Gawain
like
doesn't get
fuck
his own
this
episode.
character forever and ever. But at the same time, we just we
Nope.
just talk about
We just talk about
Egwene, and then
Egwene.
we talk about both of
Nope.
them,
We don't even.
mostly
I do
Egwene,
not recognize
and
that
then
relationship. All right. That relationship has been annulled by the church. Nope.
it
Nope.
happened
He
though.
died, which means he was not a victor, which means he
It
doesn't get to write
happened
history.
though.
Nope. Yep.
But that's Egwene also
She
died.
wrote her history before she died.
Oh,
It's a
so it's a
martyr and her lost
martyr
puppy
and a
dog
no
that
one.
tried to
All right,
follow
cool.
everybody except his own life goals. I mean, let's think about it. Let's think about it. Let's address that one
Yeah,
statement
but
just
it
now.
is
I'm
kind of
sorry, I can't
understandable
resist.
because
He follows Elaine to Tar Valon. All right. Then he follows
correct.
behind Galad in training to be a warrior. Yeah, it is.
Actually, no. That's
That's
not
what I
true.
said, isn't it? Or did
He
I say
actually
Egwene?
follows Elaine to
Oh, I meant
Tarvalon.
Elaine. Sorry, my bad. I'll
You
misspeak.
said Egwene.
Misspeak. I definitely meant Elaine.
No worries, no
Then he
worries.
follows Galad into warder
And then
training.
he follows
And
Galad
then
into warder training,
yeah.
which I guess he was going to be forced into anyway. But he does. It's definitely
Yeah. But
it's
then
more of a puppy
Big
dog
Brother Galad runs off to
follow
join
than
another group and winds up leading them. Gawain does the same, a much more insignificant group, but whatever.
correct.
I mean, he literally just follows people the entire time. That's all he does.
No, it's true. And to be fair, I actually kind of appreciate that Gawain never really had a chance. I mean, like he did. He had many chances to go ahead and make the right decision, but at the same time, he also like in that, this serial killer never had a chance kind of thing. Like he was absolutely without a doubt from the very beginning of his life. Okay, cool. Well, I'm not actually as cool as Galad. I'm not actually as attractive as Galad. I'm not actually what Galad could be. Oh, and great, now I have a sister. So even though I love them both dearly, I actually do. And like, I'm not trying to make Gawain sound like a complete and utter piece of shit when it comes to his siblings. Um, he does then get a sister, and it's like, oh well, cool. And now she's gonna be queen, and I'm gonna be meh. So really, throughout his entire life, it was always
I mean,
you're the
it's like he
kid no
spent
one
his
cares
entire
about,
life
kind of
trying to
thing.
live up to being both the warrior and bastion of justice that Galad was, but also the leader that Elaine was and was always meant to be.
Yep,
And he was caught in that middle ground where instead of trying to find
yep.
his own
And
path
he
in life and doing his own thing and being an outstanding character that he could have been in his own right, um, instead he spends more time trying to follow behind everybody else and do what everybody else is doing. And in the end, he writes a check with his bulldog mouth that his puppy dog ass can't cash, and he fucking dies.
And I mean, to be fair, there are actually a couple of things that he does in the series that
Remember, who
are
dies first? Is Egwene
incredibly
or
helpful
Gawain die
and or
first?
necessary, i.e.,
Yeah.
I
So then
believe it's
his last
Gawain,
act,
actually.
if
I
if
might be
he
wrong about
dies
that, but I
first,
believe
his last act in life is literally to drive Egwene into a grief-stricken frenzy that results in her doing something that, to be honest, the power that
yes,
Egwene
because
had
that's
and
what
what
happened.
she didn't have to fucking crystallize herself to do shit. She could have easily survived and continued to be the Amyrlin.
Kinda, yeah.
Is it probably better for the world that a new Amyrlin takes over
And
after the last battle? Probably, yeah. The same way it is that the dragon
probably.
isn't alive after the last battle. Um,
Yes. In the same way that after the Time Wars, the
sure.
Doctor regenerates.
All right. Bye.
Wow. All right, get out of here.
I
You
mean,
not knowing Doctor
why should I?
Who.
There's no reason even in his name. Doctor Who?
Just
I probably would have watched the TV show more if it didn't have such
Ow,
shitty special effects.
it hurts so bad.
But that's not the actor or
That's fair,
actress's fault.
because it really kind of
But
certainly. But anyway, yeah, there are some things that Gawain does that are actually very important to other people doing what they need to do. But yeah.
come on, Moraine. I get it. You had the
Anyway,
dragon to watch after, and these two other Taviran, and then this childish, self-righteous chick that ultimately, while you weren't around, became a decent woman
but there are
in
some ways
Amerlin.
to
Um, but you could have spent 5 seconds talking to your goddamn nephew.
come
You could have like
on,
said,
oh,
like, surely with your eavesdropping
if
skill,
it's
you heard
gone,
Gawain talking some bullshit, and you could have sat down with him and be
you
like, "Look, man, find your own way in life. All right, stop trying to follow your brother. Stop trying to follow your sister. Give him some cliche follow what's in your heart bullshit, so that he wouldn't have been such a shitty fucking follow along lost puppy dog character that sees, ooh, here's a woman that doesn't like she has anybody that loves her. Let's see if she'll love me because God knows my mom and dad never did." Uh,
oof, harsh but true. No, honestly, Gawain is actually a character that I really like right up until the point where Elida takes over. Because again, I mean, like he's a little bit of a pathetic butthole. Like not really, but yeah, because he's like second to, or maybe even a couple more down to, Galet and some of the other warders as far as sword fighting and whatnot, and he's too much of a pussy to actually go ahead and ask Egwene out. It actually takes Elaine finding out that he likes her and going and telling Egwene and her making the first move. But at the same time, he's like a good person overall. He definitely tries to protect Rand from different stuff in the palace when he falls in the garden and blah blah blah. And he ends up like actually really trying to look after Elaine. But the second that Elida takes over the tower, he just tail spins into just a
yep, the first and last time I
total
like Godwin
dickwad.
is in the fucking garden scene. Once that's done, I'm just like, and I see him after that, I'm just like, what a fucking
Right?
shit show. Like, you started off so decent, but you got to have some shitty characters to make a story believable. So thank you for your sacrifice.
It's true. You gotta have your Gowans and your Valdas to go ahead and appreciate your
Lord
lands and
Gawain,
your
first Prince of the
moraines.
Sword and shit stain of Camelin, also known as Queen Morghase's biggest
Ugh,
regret in life. Because their other two children lived on to actually make something of themselves. This one dropped dead and caused the death of an Amerlin because he thought he could take on a fucking Dreadlord. Where were your younglings then? Oh, that's
because
right.
he's an
Anakin killed
adulteress.
them all. I mean, obviously, it wasn't actually Anakin, but close enough. Eh, he killed younglings. He
No, it was
wouldn't.
Anakin.
Oh, yes, he would. And
Gawain
Gawain
is
enabled it.
the Anakin of
Oh, yeah, you're.
Gawain
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the Anakin of this fucking
But
series.
anyway,
If oh my god, how awful yet
oh
amazing would
god,
it be if Hayden Christensen
I
played
think people would
Gawain?
see that casting and instantly write off the TV show. To be honest with you, so I know like
Oh god, it would be
weeks
so
ago we talked
horribly
about the Hayden
wonderful.
Christensen thing, and I was like, oh, I actually liked him. Well, like a week and a half ago, I rewatched Star Wars Episode 3 and came to terms with how
Mm-hmm.
absolute of a shit show that entire movie was, with only the scenes with Obi-Wan and General Grievous
Yep.
being even worth watching. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson was pretty good, but that's because I
Yeah,
mentally
it's not
ad-libbed a
actually
bunch of
quite as
motherfuckers into his dialogue. But
this motherfucker's too dangerous to be left alive.
I mean, there's no fucking rhyme or reason.
Anakin. We do allow you on this motherfucking council,
Well,
but we
based
do
on the
not
fucking books.
motherfucking
I
give
mean,
you
based
the
on the
rank of
movies, not the
master.
books. Like, Anakin's transition to the dark side is the laziest fucking character change I have ever seen in my life, based solely on episode 3. I'm too weak. Don't let him
Yes.
kill
Well,
me.
and it's also, again, so much of it is so much of fucking Anakin's bad character development in both 2 and 3 is really chalked up to Hayden Christensen, because again, and I will admit, absolutely, and this is one thing that I've heard many times before, and I absolutely agree with. Also, Lucas, because again, there is so much of the series or of Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith where if it was played like Anakin is actually a good person who's having such a hard time with the things that he's dealing with that he ends up being seduced by the dark side, that would be a good characterization. It would actually be not lazy, it would be appropriate, it would be understandable. But like so much of the movies, you just see like Hayden Christensen play Anakin as this dark, brooding little bitch who's actually having a really hard time trying to
But
convince
daddy, I'm a
himself he's a
Jedi.
Jedi. And you're like, that's backwards.
He's the world's shittiest wolf brother. He stole the yellow
It's
eyes.
backwards. Ugh.
So
Terrible wolf brother.
Moiraine.
Anyway, you know who doesn't have yellow eyes? Moiraine Damage Red. And she's dope.
More like Moiraine. Damn, she's awesome.
But yeah,
Lords should be afraid.
Dread.
It works if
Truth.
you don't think about it too hard or too long. Just accept it, people. Some really amazing artwork for Moiraine as well.
Already did. There is, yeah. It's good stuff. I am still very sad as of this moment that Ariel Burgess is no longer allowed to do officially licensed work, because damn, there are like 3
Well, you know
pictures
what you
on
do
the wiki
now?
page that are all by
You still sign it. You still
that
sign it, but you classify it as
are
fan
all
art.
done by him. Or maybe, and I'm really hoping that this is true, and some others have speculated that it just needs to wait until the show's actually out, and maybe they'll actually just ask the artists or the other people who have been official, all of the people, or at least a select few of the people who have been um sanctioned by the estate, to actually just do it officially as well, but sanctioned both by the estate
I mean,
and
let's
by
let's be honest
Amazon,
here.
which would be great.
You, I,
So
the entire
good luck,
community,
guys.
and Rafe and himself, and everyone else in the writers' room, Sarah, the currently casted characters, all know for a fact that they have at least 20 times by now, and that's given a benefit of the doubt for how long production has been going on, beyond what we've been told. Because it seems to be moving extraordinarily fast. Because, well, no, I can't say that because they outlined season 2, but nothing says they're shooting season 2 yet.
Not.
But anyway,
Oh yeah, no, they're unless they're somehow getting it into the shooting schedule and for things that make sense, a la like Lord of the Rings, the way that it was all shot at the same time. I'm pretty
but
sure that they
anyway,
haven't
you know what I'm
touched
saying.
season
We
2
all
yet
know
at all as far as filming.
that you guys, just like we do, have hopped on Google, typed in Moraine Wheel of Time, went straight to this what.fandom.com webpage, and seen the one. There's at least two. I know for sure 2 artworks that are featured in this article by Ariel Burgess. Just give her the fucking license, all right? Just give it to her, all right?
Yep.
Because I mean, don't get me wrong, there are other people that have
Right.
done some great artwork. I'm
It's
not a
him.
big fan of one of these, um, which I'm not gonna say because I don't want anybody's feelings to get hurt because it's 2020 and feelings matter, and God forbid somebody say something that offends you. um,
Never mind. I'm an idiot.
but just give her the fucking license. She had it before, and she's done fantastic work and has done nothing but help
Yes.
increase the fandom of the series. I mean, hell, you want her to draw her with blonde hair, that's fine. Though
Yep.
we know you're gonna dye Pike's hair like that. Like, I am sorry. That's like of the
Probably.
many issues that people have called with Pike playing Moiraine, I discredit all of them. It's because they can all be fixed. However, if they refuse to portray Moiraine with her dark colored hair, it will be the biggest offense to cinema since that new fuckboy that plays James Bond refused to say the phrase shaken, not stirred. I am. Because when you say
Are you talking
you
about
refuse to
Daniel
say
Craig?
shaken, not stirred, I think he ultimately did, but in initial talks, he said he wasn't going to say it. Um,
All right,
oh,
guys.
are you a
So this has been
fanboy of
fun.
Craig?
I'm no longer going to be on the podcast because
What?
Andrew just
Yeah, you
insulted
know
my
what? As a
favorite
matter of
Bond.
fact, I don't want to be on this
So
podcast. You can have it.
he's my second favorite Bond. No, he's my Connery is obviously the best Bond, not just because he originated the role, but also because he's just fucking suave as shit. But I
See,
would say that Daniel Craig is
Sean
actually my
Connery is
second
my
favorite
second
Bond,
favorite
so
Bond.
that hurt a little.
He was too
Oh
how do
wow.
I put this? He was too much of a Bond that seemed to put off that no doesn't mean no necessarily vibe. However, for me,
Okay. But it was also a different time. And like again, while I'm not saying that if I lived in that time, I still wouldn't have said no means no, but it was both written and filmed in a different time when, let's be honest, the expectation was that no meant maybe. So I can appreciate the fact that they held true to that, even if I completely don't agree with it on a personal scale.
Peter Brosnan. Yeah,
Anyway, who is your first
yeah.
Bond? Pierce Brosnan?
I really like Pierce Brosnan as
It's
Bond.
fair. He
Now, don't
does
get me
make a good
wrong.
Bond.
I liked him in not Dante's Inferno, Dante's Peak. Those are all good movies. Now, when I saw that he was going to be in Mamma Mia, this is like during a time when I was either frequently at my parents' house or still living in my parents' house. I can't remember. Um, my mom knew how much I enjoyed Pierce Brosnan as an actor and would not let the fact that he was playing in Mamma Mia rest. Because all I could do was like straight up Darth Vader, end of episode 3. No. But do what you got to do to make money. But I'm not a big fan of Daniel Craig as as Bond. I'm really not. I don't like a blonde
That's
Bond.
fair.
I don't. It didn't look good. And to me he just gave off he didn't give off that suave gentleman vibe that Bond was supposed to have. It gave off that cocky jock asshole vibe.
I mean, to be fair, he was also playing Bond at the beginning of his career. And so that is a distinctly different character. Now, again, let me be very, very, very clear here. Hey, Andrew, you are absolutely welcome to have all of your opinions, and I will fight
Oh,
till the
military
day I
recruiters are
die
very happy to hear
for
that
you
right
to be
now.
allowed to have your opinions. I just don't
Hey, man, that's fine. You're
necessarily
entitled to be
agree
wrong. I mean, your own
with
opinions.
your opinions.
This is America where everyone is entitled to be wrong.
This is America. Yeah.
I mean, don't
And
get me
almost
wrong. Like, the
everyone
guy is a
is
good actor, and
about
largely, in
everything.
fact, I'm saying shit to poke fun, but it's just not my favorite Bond.
Sure.
Though, again, I do like the theory that
No,
these are,
that's totally fair.
yeah, I do like the idea
Need
that every
to be
Bond
your
we've
cup
ever
of
seen are actually
for
different people
everything.
entirely. It's just that the name James Bond comes with the call sign 007. So regardless of who you are, your name gets changed to James Bond.
Yes. It is definitely an interesting theory that I have been fascinated with. I don't actually like it that much. I actually like it just being one person who's done all of this amazing stuff. But I do think that it's very interesting, and given that given the way that Bond has
I feel
had to be
dumb.
filmed, because it's such a long
I
standing
was wrong
series
about
and
who my favorite
whatnot,
Bond is.
and
I can't believe I forgot
people
this, man.
get old.
So move everybody down a notch. Pierce, how did you fucking
Are
know?
you
That
Roger
is
Moore?
Sir Roger Moore. That is Sir Roger Moore. You will not take
No,
his knighting from the
that's Roger
Queen
Moore.
away from him.
I mean, I just
Sir
typed in
Roger
Roger Moore
George
and
Moore.
it brought up the results. It didn't.
You motherfucker. I think
Yes,
he was actually
indeed.
my favorite Bond. I mean, but the thing is, like, each Bond has their own unique kind of charm to them that
All
makes you
right.
like certain parts. Roger Moore was more of that kind of like
Oh, it's absolutely true. Yeah.
suave, more jokey, like ladies man in the non Sean Connery Bond creepy way. Um, Pierce Brosnan was a lot more of that kind
Yes.
of cool, calm, collect Bond that whether he was, trying to shoot Jaws and Jaws was somehow deflecting it with his fucking teeth, or he was trying to bone Holly Berry. He kind of had the same attitude about him regardless. Um, and then Sean Connery was just that over like combat badass, and then just you didn't really want to see him outside of the action because it just, especially watching it now, it just puts off vibes that make you look at the girl you're watching the movie with and just say, "I'm sorry, it wasn't me, but I'm sorry."
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. Now that's very true.
Timothy Dalton,
And it
right?
will be forever, unfortunately. Sorry. It's
Are
not
you are
unfortunate
you sure?
that
Why don't you tell us how you really
things
feel?
have changed. It is unfortunate it is unfortunate that sliver of American life is now forever caught on film
I
and
mean,
can
the
be
thing that brings
watched
all of us Bond fans together is the
decades into
fact
the
that nobody
future.
enjoyed Timothy Dalton playing Bond.
Correct. That is
Poor
something that
Dalton.
we all share. But you know who all of us are going to
Rosamund
be
Pike
really
playing
excited
Moiraine
about playing
Damodred.
a role?
I just got completely
Damn
distracted
straight.
by a picture of an actress. Jesus Christ, what a wide fucking smile. I am haunted right
You
now.
do that on occasion.
Billy Piper.
Wow.
Piper.
Haunted. Billy
Billie
who?
Piper. That is a
Yes.
hauntingly. At least this picture just makes her smile. It's terrifying. Who?
Oh yeah, it's
Who?
Rose. It's Rose. That
Who?
you haven't seen enough Doctor Who, apparently. Anyway, thank you all for joining us on this episode of the
Remember,
Black
if you
Tower
have comments,
Podcast.
questions, concerns, suggested topics, whatever you want to talk about, as long as it is Wheel of Time, don't ask for my phone number or address because 30% of the time I won't give it to you. Don't quote me on that percentage. Um, you can reach out to us on Twitter at Tower Podcast. You can email us at blacktowerpod@gmail.com. You can find us on our hosting site at blacktowerpod.podbean.com, which also has links to our the YouTube channel that Podbean automatically uploads our content to, which of course is called Black Tower Podcast. Um, has we put links to the Discord there. We put the link to our Patreon there, which the renovation, much like Josh's bathroom renovation that he's currently working on, that's why he's not in this episode. Um, I meant to mention that like at the very start of the podcast,
Oh yeah, we
and
didn't even
not that
talk
I
about that
forgot
at
about
all.
Josh, but just got distracted by the way we were talking. That's why Josh isn't in this podcast. He's renovating his bathroom in his house.
Indeed.
Because renovating his fancy king level study wasn't enough. Um, I kid, Josh. I kid. Fantastic. Hmm.
I don't. Some of us are still
That's why I
living in
see him with that
apartments with
meme
the
of
roommates, you
I'm sorry, is this
butthole.
joke
How
too
about you
peasant
calm
for me to
down?
understand? Oh, there you go. That's it.
I'm sorry, is this some
Um,
peasant joke? I'm too
but
rich
that's
to
why he's not here.
understand.
He is working on renovating a bathroom. For I
Indeed.
don't. Did he post that for everybody to see in the Discord, or was that just? It was just us that saw it. Um, ask him about the
It was
fantastic
just us, yeah.
historical memento he found in the wall. While,
Oh,
oh yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure he'll be happy to go ahead and post about it.
Let me just say, I don't remember the
But
last time I saw one
definitely
of these
reach
and on the
out
package
because
actually
I think
said
he'd love that.
prophylactic. Because most people that use them now don't even know what the word prophylactic means.
Right?
But he's been busy toiling away,
Correct.
making his house a better home for his family. Nobody can be mad about that. And if you are, much in the same way that we feel about your criticisms of Rosamund
Certain.
Pike being too tall to play Moiraine, go fuck yourself. Or at least me, but I think we all agree. But whatever. but
Oh no, it's mutual. It's 100% all of us.
until he renovates
But
the
hopefully
next
we
part
will
of his
have
kingdom
Josh back
castle.
next week when we will be
Oh, I must redo the drawing
right.
room now.
But
Hey,
you
it's
you
got all
got a
kinds of
whole room
Crayola
in
things.
your
All of them
house
they're
where you
coloring books.
just
Most of the
draw?
lines ain't been breached though. My mom taught me good.
Do you
I mean, I'd imagine so.
are
Probably
you
got dry
allowed to
erase
draw
board
on the
on it.
wall? I like the Crayola on the
But,
wall.
ladies and gentlemen, blacktowerpod.podbean.com has links to everything. You can go to a contact page that also has our email. Has every manner to get in contact with us, as well as a quick download link for both Android and iOS for the Podbean podcasting app. Um, I like it. It's pretty neat. It's pretty nifty. Um, you get alerts like
Indeed.
you probably do with every app because most apps are like 95% clones. But um, sorry, I just heard my roommate burp halfway across the house and it scared the shit out of me. I thought Satan was here. Um, but you can just trying to get some
Hey,
cereal.
evil spirits, it's me, it's your boy.
But it's too easy to get in contact with us through, like we've already said, Twitter, Discord, email, whatever manner have you. There's multiple ways out there to do it. We do our best to interact with with the fandom, with the Twitter time, and especially those of you that are the lovely, lovely listeners of this podcast, without whom we would just be 2 to 3 guys rambling in the ether to our family that might be take pity enough to download the podcast, if anything. Um, but we thank you guys for your continued support. We look forward to talking with you, interacting with you, hearing what you have to say. I know we say it every time, but we mean it every time we say it. If you have something to say, please don't hold back, whether you think it's good or bad. We're not going to be offended. We've all got thick skin here, even if it takes us a second to step back and remember that from time to time. Um, of course, Discord's going to be one of the easiest ways and most
Yep.
likely to get instant feedback or relatively instant feedback. But if you're too cool for Discord, that's fine. Do you? But to bring this, oh, yeah.
Yes. Twitter will also give you a pretty quick response. So if you like one of those two better, go ahead. If you like something else better, we could be persuaded, but I can't guarantee we'll ever see it, depending.
Yeah. But to bring this very long-winded and unnecessarily long outro to its conclusion, again, thank you all for listening. We will see you next week. We have been the Black Tower Podcast. My name is Andrew,
My name is Daniel.
and we will drag Josh along, regardless of the status of his home renovations, and see you guys next week for the next topic.
Have a great night, guys.